Hi everyone, I'm Isabelle and I'm going to present our research on using VR to help university students with ADHD with their schoolwork. This project was a collaboration between researchers from Switzerland and the US. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, short ADHD, is highly prevalent, affecting up to 10% of children and up to 6% of the general population. Individuals with ADHD have intellectual capabilities within the normal range, but often struggle with academic work, especially with tasks which require a lot of mental effort over longer periods of time. In general, this can lead them to taking more time to complete these tasks compared to their peers, or avoiding them altogether. The university environment specifically poses certain difficulties on individuals with ADHD. Compared to high school, the student-to-staff ratio is higher, and there is little parental oversight. In addition, in many cases, the workload for students is high, and they are required to sustain attention in lectures, homework, and studying throughout the whole day. Evidence-based treatments are therefore often difficult to administer in this specific setting. While medication can have a significant positive impact on symptoms of ADHD, up to 60% of adolescents and emerging adults who take medication during childhood stop taking it later on. An alternative or addition to medication is behavioral treatment. This type of treatment is based on frequent and consistent monitoring from parents or teachers, which is time and resource intensive and therefore usually not feasible at a university. On the other hand, virtual reality has been used in recent years for several educational and work scenarios. Previous research shows its potential to reduce distractions and to improve intrinsic motivation, learning outcomes, and flow experience. Regarding ADHD, VR has been mainly used for either the assessment of ADHD or specific cognitive training interventions. In this context, studies have shown that youth with ADHD found the virtual environment engaging and were more likely to stick to the training interventions compared to traditional methods. Motivated by this research, we want to explore if and how VR could be administered to support university students with ADHD with doing their homework and studying. To that end, we asked 3 research questions. First, we wanted to know whether working on real academic tasks in VR could increase concentration, motivation, and effort for university students with ADHD. We were also interested in the effect of VR when used regularly for this purpose over the course of several weeks, both in terms of effectiveness as well as usability. In addition, we implemented an automatic feedback mechanism based on the user's interaction with the computer, and asked whether this constant visual feedback could improve concentration, motivation, and effort. To answer these questions, we asked students with ADHD to work on their academic tasks in VR twice a week over the course of several weeks. We gathered both quantitative data in form of questionnaires and computer interaction data, as well as qualitative data from semi-structured interviews. We also implemented a technology probe to provide automatic feedback to students while working in VR. 27 students participated in this study. All of them were between 18 and 25 years old and met the ADHD criteria. 17 of them were actively taking ADHD medication and were instructed to continue as usual during the time of the study. Before getting invited to this study, interested students were asked to fill out eligibility questionnaires online. In case they fulfilled the requirements, they were also asked to fill out baseline questionnaires, focusing on their levels of concentration, motivation, and effort when completing academic tasks in their usual work environment. Following the experiment, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 17 out of the 27 participants, each taking around 45 minutes. The interviews were focused on the overall VR experience, the ability to focus, usability, and potential future usage scenarios. The interviews were also conducted online. But now, let's get into more detail regarding the VR sessions. Participants were instructed to work in VR for 50 minutes at a time. For that, we asked them to work on their current academic tasks, which required interaction with the computer, like for example, writing papers, preparing presentations, or doing online quizzes. The VR setup was placed in an open office space at the university. It was also used by other students and employees during the study sessions. Participants used the Vario X3 VR headset connected to a computer on which they could freely navigate and use any application they needed. They also wore noise-cancelling headphones with the option to listen to ambient nature sounds during the study sessions. The virtual environment presented inside of the VR during the study session was a simplistic cabin room with a desk. The computer screen displayed inside of it was a high-resolution mirror of the real monitor, and participants could see their keyboard and their hands through a cutout window. Directly following each VR session, participants were asked to fill out concentration, motivation, effort, and usability questionnaires on the experiment computer. These sessions, including 50 minutes of work in VR as well as filling out questionnaires, were scheduled ideally twice per week, with the possibility to continue with the experiment for up to 6 weeks. On average, participants completed 7.4 sessions, leading to 198 VR sessions in total. There were several reasons for participants participating in less than 12 sessions. One participant explicitly named discomfort in the VR headset as the reason for discontinuation, while other reasons ranged from extensive work commitments over injuries to the academic semester coming to an end, which was actually the reason for the discontinuation of several participants. During all sessions, participants' interaction with the computer, namely mouse clicks, mouse movement, scrolling, keyboard strokes, and window switches, were tracked automatically. During sessions 6 to 10, an additional feedback mechanism based on the tracked computer interaction data was added to the experiment. A feedback bar right below the computer screen indicated whether the participant consistently interacted with the computer. The goal of this feedback mechanism was first, the exploration of the monitoring of interaction levels based on very simple data, and second, asking participants about their opinion on such an addition to the VR environment. For more details on the calculation of the feedback state, please take a look at the paper. Now I will summarize our main findings. This plot shows the baseline and the individual VR sessions on the x-axis, and the respective concentration scores from the concentration questionnaire from all participants on the y-axis. Participants rated their ability to concentrate as significantly better in VR compared to their baseline. A similar pattern is also present in the data from the other questionnaires, namely better reported motivation and effort in VR compared to the baseline. The quantitative results were further supported by the qualitative statements from participants during our interviews. In particular, participants mentioned that both VR headset as well as noise-cancelling headphones reduced external distractions, like other people walking by or talking. Participants also reported that they found themselves faced with fewer self-interruptions, especially looking at their phone to check text messages or check social media. In addition, many of them found the liability of scheduled working times helpful. Regarding the effectiveness of VR over several weeks, quantitative data shows that the concentration stayed on a consistent level throughout all the VR sessions, without any indication of a novelty effect wearing off, with participants rating their concentration during each of the VR sessions as significantly better compared to the baseline. The results for both motivation and effort are similarly consistent. Qualitative statements offer additional insights. When asked about potential future usage scenarios, participants preferred the possibility of scheduling time slots to work in VR at a university library over using VR for academic tasks in their homes. The least favorite scenario was the usage of VR during test or exam situations, with participants expressing doubts about technical problems as well as potentially increased anxiety. Overall, Opinions on certain aspects of the VR environment and sessions varied between participants, indicating a need for customization. While the majority of participants found a simplistic cabin environment in general suitable for working on academic tasks, most of them still expressed the wish to customize both the VR environment as well as the audio to their personal preferences and habits, having many different ideas on how to design an ideal study environment. Similarly, some participants perceived 50 minutes for one VR session as either ideal, too short, or too long. One important aspect during the interviews was the comfort using the VR headset. All except for one participant experienced some type of discomfort with the headset, to some degree during at least one of the VR sessions, with both eye strain and heaviness being named as the most common problems. On the other side, participants also reported that they got used to the setup over time and learned how to configure it to their needs. Overall, participants still rated the usability of the system with an above-average score on the system usability scale. Focusing on the quantitative data again, the automatic feedback on students' interaction level that we deployed for sessions 6 to 10 had no statistically significant impact when compared to the sessions without feedback. However, note that participants still reported significantly better concentration, effort, and motivation for sessions with feedback compared to the baseline. As revealed during the interviews, participants had very differing views on the feedback bar, with some finding it valuable and helpful, reporting that they perceived it as accurate and motivating. Others thought that it had only limited value or perceived it even as a source of distraction. We conclude that VR shows considerable promise for addressing distractibility and concentration difficulties in university students with ADHD, especially with this technology advancing and getting more usable in the future. Thank you for your attention. We look forward to seeing you next time.